morning, everyone. 18 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Sunrise Show. Craig Fronican, and on the phone with us, one of the candidates for the Oregon governor on the Republican side, Bud Pierce. You can get to his website, budpierce.com. Dr. Bud Pierce, I should say, as an MD and a PhD. He's reserve Marine Corps for years and, of course, done so much with his life, and OHSU and oncology clinic up there. Fantastic. And, Bud, it's great to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much.
It's fabulous to be on with you, Craig. Thank you.
Well, a beautiful day, and your website says new vision, new direction for governor. And before we came on, I had to tell our listeners, when it comes to governorship, I've kind of realized that the governor's office has been so far out left. The reality has not been there, the grounding, the helping everyone. And it just, we've trying to get away from, unfortunately, the history of John Kitzhaber. And it's kind of like, let that go. But then this is now, let's move forward. So with your new vision, new direction, what do you see coming for Oregon?
Yeah, well, what government should always do is make sure we're as safe as we can be, so we can go about our daily lives in as safe a way as possible. As much prosperity as we can create, and that's where we're really falling down. If you look at many individuals over the last 20 years, it's either stagnation of standard of living or an absolute fall, and that leads to so much disharmony in our society, and people really, frankly, start fighting with each other when things are sinking. And then finally, I would focus on the ability to be free, because freedom really means not only being able to not be arrested, but unfairly. But what it means is when you say something and you live in the way that you want to live, you're not punished for it and you're not fined for it. So I think government has a really important role in supporting us in our daily freedom, and also in letting us live together, so that when we meet up with someone who may not have the same views in life, that we can work it out, that we can live in harmony, rather than really being an oppressive force. That's an important fact, too.
It is. And, Oregon, we've got our work cut out for us when it comes to education. What are you, 49th, something like that, 46th in the nation? And you've got that, the budget woes now, the PERS issue. Now we've got Governor Kate Brown appointed from Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State's office is up for grabs. The Treasurer's office is up for grabs. This is really interesting as Oregonians. And then we've got this land issue going on. I mean, we've on all fronts. It's just going to be all hands on deck, isn't it?
Yeah, lots of challenges. So education and training. The thing that I think that's always remarkable to me is there are states around the nation that do it a lot better than us. And you look at states like Massachusetts and Iowa, what they've figured out is local school control, pretty much run by principals and teachers, and parental involvement with a agreed-upon curriculum that makes sense, common sense testing to help identify students that need more help, options including charter and academy schools for a little bit of competition, but also for options for parents, a much more robust career technical education. We're finally realizing that a lot of kids don't want to go to college, nor is college right for them, but they have great career training in a skill or a field will really set you up for life, and that's really the educational piece, including finally making our higher education affordable, so people aren't indebted their whole life because they got a college degree. And on the job front, it really comes down to much more prosperous and many more private sector jobs, and that's the vehicle that improves standards of living. And we're going to have to trust our private businesses to lead us, to support them, to get government on their side so they can create the jobs and the opportunities for the citizens. And there's just no other way to do it. I like the concept of the government regulatory agencies really having what I call a dual mandate. And that dual mandate is, yes, you're to regulate and make sure it's safe and effective, but you're also to do everything you can to help what you're regulating prosper, because that is a piece that's missing. It's not regulate and kill it. It's regulated in a way, listen, make changes so business can really prosper and expand. And finally, on the government side, it has to be as frugal as possible. Yes, employees can be well-paid, government employees, they should be. They do amazingly good work under incredibly difficult circumstances in their hierarchical structure. But you got to frugal it down so that most of the resources are available into the private sector so that jobs can be created. And let me take one final comment. The real issue that faces us is if you look at what's called our labor participation rate, we have about 4 million Oregonians. About 80% are of working age, 18 to 65. That's about 3.2 million people. We have 2 million jobs, and only 1.5 million of them are full-time. There aren't enough people working, and there aren't enough people working in good jobs. And it's not that they don't want to work. It's a lot of times education, training, and the job's just not available. And if you could take out of that 1 million-plus people, get half of them, 500,000 into a great work that takes care of your economic problems, your social problems, your family problems, your health problems, if people have jobs, take care of themselves. It's about creating great jobs and a low cost of living so that people can be truly free to live the life they want to live.
Well said, Bud. We're visiting with Bud Pierce. He's candidate for Oregon governor on the Republican ticket. There are, it looks like, a total of 9 candidates, 4 on the Republican side, 5 on the Democrat side. It'll be interesting to see. And, you know, Bud, with your medical background, obviously a lot to say related to CARE Oregon and everything, the debacle there, and whether the feds will make the state of Oregon pay that back, because the taxpayers for the rest of the country, they kind of want their $300 million back, I'm thinking, and that's going to be a problem. And you probably watched this from afar thinking, what in the world are we going to do?
Yeah. So my overall comments are that what we need to do is having a basic insurance for all people who are here legally, having basic insurance, a basic plan is a good thing. You know, before we had the expansion of the Oregon Health Plan, our practice in Salem, privately owned by us, we take care of about 150 uninsured patients a year to the tune of about $1.5 million in terms of donated medicines from pharmaceuticals and our own donated staff time and other things. So I like the idea of people having the security of some kind of basic insurance plan. I think the problem that we're having is how do we just define what basic and what everyone gets, and then how do you add on to that? What you add on is you can assume adding on with Medicare, adding on with business, people can purchase, or philanthropy. Because what we've done is taking away all that charitable care, we have now replaced that with insurance, and it's pretty much unaffordable for society. Right. So we have to get back to defining a basic health plan that people have as being legal human beings, and then we can have additional payments in for enhanced services and coverage. And again, strongly encourage the philanthropy, because we really want everyone to get pretty much the same, but you're not going to be able to mandate that through insurance, because it's going to break us. It's going to flat break us unless we get those other 500,000 people that we could working in the system and create contributing jointly. So that's kind of where we have to go.
Well, exactly.
And the more mandates that come down from the feds and demands and complexities and bureaucracies, it makes our money go, just eats up all our money. And we can't go there.
Well, yeah, Bud, and since, yourself as an MD, I mean, you know better than most, and we could have an entire program just based off of the emergency room visits and the debacle with that. So
correct. Yeah, there's just so much, and most doctors know that are practicing daily. We could literally, if we had our mindset and had the right incentives and were working in harmony with the public, we could probably cut the cost of services by half without affecting the health of the population, because there's so much complexity and cost and bureaucracy and just troubles in the system. There's probably half the money's wasted.
Oh my gosh, I know
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Bud, we've got to get to a break, so let's do that and come right back. We've got Bud Pierce on the program. He's running for governor for the great state of Oregon. His website is budpierce.com. Fascinating story. We've got a lot more topics to talk to him about, so stick with us. We've got to get to a break and then come right back after ABC News at the bottom of the hour. News Radio 880 KCMX, Sunrise with Craig. We'll be back after this.
Let me
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. 35 minutes after the hour. Continuing with candidate for the great state of Oregon for the governorship is Bud Pierce, and his website is budpierce.com. He's an MD and a PhD and spent years at OHSU and oncology up there. And, you know, Bud, while we were talking on the break, basically will tell it like it is. You're going to get straight story, straight scoop. And I think, you know, Bud, preparing as a doctor and retired from the Marine Corps. I love what your website says. You said new vision, new direction, and it says time to return trust and leadership to state government. And people are just wanting that. They just want the nuts and bolts, right?
Yeah, it's amazing how far government has fallen, and what really made that strike home with me was over the recent issue of Apple and the iPhone and the terrorists and the relationship of government and getting the phone. And I was talking over my daughter, who's 29 years old, and she's a moderate. I mean, she's right in the center, and she's not even particularly political. And I said, well, so should Apple unlock the phone and give it to the government so they can look it up? She goes, no. I go, why not? She goes, you can't trust government. And this is a 29-year-old person who's been raised in a family that is traditional and conservative by nature and doesn't speak badly of people and actually doesn't speak badly of government. I mean, we respect our government and all that, but so many bad decisions and bad policies and bad behavior and failed policies and failed behavior. And even my 29-year-old daughter, who doesn't have a political bone in her body, says, can't trust government.
Yeah, exactly. And to add to that, Bud, I've got a 22-year-old college student and my son, and I said, you know, what do you think? We were talking issues and stuff. He said, Dad, voting, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't against voting. He wasn't against the voting process, but he was just talking about the issues. He said, Dad, it's all a waste of time. And I and I had to stop and go, he's absolutely right. But we have to push through that. Now, I've been talking, this incredible CompTIA report came out, and it's a technical writing. I'll tell you, the Cyber States 2016, and it's their 17th annual review, and it talks about the tech industry and the average wage in tech industry for the state of Oregon, because then they broke down to all 50 states. $105,000 is the average wage in tech industry, but yet the private sector wage salary, $46,500 in the state of Oregon, and looks like they added about 3,800 jobs between 2014 and 2015. In Oregon, there's 92,000 jobs that are at that $105,000. And I'm thinking, why don't we raise the bar? Why are we so busy talking about the minimum wage? You had to just been cringing, Bud, when the legislature was going after that minimum wage bill.
Yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs. First, we'll talk about minimum wage. Obviously, the purported goal is so that people have more money, and again, so when we talk about people's prosperity, it's an issue of two things. One is the money they keep, and number two is the cost of living. So more money they keep, good. Cost of living low is good. The main thing that we can do to help people be more prosperous, number one, is for them to actually have a job. And study after study shows that when government puts mandates on private sector, it costs jobs, it costs hours. So because the response is, if it's a industry that doesn't have much of a profit margin, what they have to do is they have to cut back hours, they have to cut back on their number of employees. So it's harmful, and we must support jobs as a number one goal of any administration. So what you can do to help people to have more of their own money, number one, if they don't get paid enough, let's say $20,000 or less, don't make them pay state income tax. No, they shouldn't pay state income tax. They should keep all their money. They have to pay federal. We can't change that, but keep their own money. Don't send it to the state. Number two, earned income tax credit. If they're not paid enough, we can, when they file their taxes, we can enhance the amount of money that they made by, frankly, sending them a check. That way, we're all contributing. If we feel that it's important, we don't burden private business alone. Especially poor private business, we support it as a state. Finally, one huge thing is child care. It's so unaffordable for our young working people. It can cost thousands of dollars a year per child. Come up with a reasonable plan, a combined private public plan for child care that's high quality and low cost, and you'll do much more in that way. So that's minimum wage. On the job front, again, the goal has to be to create prosperous businesses that will pay their employees well. Tech is prosperous, highly subsidized and supported by government, by the way. When Intel does an expansion of their property, they actually have a certain program so that they don't have to pay the increased property tax in exchange for creating jobs. So we should do that for all our businesses. If you improve your property and you can employ more employees and such, you shouldn't have to pay a higher property tax bill, because that way that's a disincentive. So it's interesting how tech is highly supported, has lots of response from government to help them be successful. We need to frankly do that for all our industries. And the real answer to get high-paying jobs in addition to tech is getting back to where we make things. And we're not trying to compete with low-cost Asian producers. We're trying to compete with high-cost, high-wage German factories and European factories. We need to compete with them. We need to outcompete them. And number two is we have to bring back natural resource use-based economy. Timber is a great gift. If we are smart in maintaining our forests and harvesting a crop that takes 70, 80, or 90 years to grow, and turning those into great products that are world-beating wood products, like build a 50-story building out of wood, which you can do, at least on paper, and we're going to be able to do pretty soon. That's how we're going to get the great jobs back. So it's manufacturing of all industries, and it's also using our natural resources. That's how we'll get the $100,000 jobs back for more Oregonians than just tech.
Well, it's so important because Oregon's good at drawing businesses here. It's not so good at keeping them. We're speaking with Bud Pierce. He's a candidate on the Republican side for the governor for the state of Oregon. Bud, what's interesting is I saw through the legislature, and I had as many legislators as I could get on the program during that 35 days, but it was an absolute abuse of power. Because the Republican, the conservative, and the voters of Oregon were not being represented, and the false, the political agenda, the false narrative, and you have the minimum wage piece, but then you have the 40% increase on energy because of the batting back of the coal-fired power plants, and knowing that the governor was going to sign it, and it's part of President Obama's agenda, and you're just going, what? And then to think that the emissions is not going to change hardly all. It's like a 0.0 something percent, right?
Yeah, right. It's less than 0.04%. There isn't going to be any change in carbon production in the world as a result of this. There's going to be zero change. So this is, again, the issue of people living the life they want to live. If you want to live a great life, you have to be free to be who you are. You have to be in a society that's protected so you can go about your business, your daily business safely. And you have to have prosperity, which is a good-paying job and a low cost of living. And the problem with this bill is it's going to make the cost of living higher because it's going to drive up the cost of energy in our daily lives. And that is the problem with it. No one is against a zero carbon-producing energy source and we have that with hydro, by the way, but it has to be low cost, or people spend all their money on stuff like energy and housing and food, and they have nothing to really live with, and that's a grinding life. Oh. So, again, what you had was a special deal. They created a back room with PGE and Pacific Power, and the people who like to make windmills and who like to do solar, and they're there, and they're going to do very well. And it's what's going to happen is we're going to pay for it. You know what this bill does? It allows up to 4% increase in energy costs per year for the cost of the clean energy on top of the regular rate increases. And I was looking at the increases in 2014 and 2015. They were like 5 or 6%. So if we had a 4% increase on top of that, it might be 10% increase in your utility bills. And the law is written in a way that they're going to get it. And the PUC can't stop that. They just have to pass it through. So again, it's not an attack on clean energy or green energy. It's an attack on the cost of energy. And if we want to change the world's climate, what we need to do is go to places like China and help them develop low-cost, cleaner energy sources. So for China to go from coal to liquefied natural gas would be a huge boom to the world's CO2 production because they burn a lot of coal.
Oh, my God.
When you travel to those countries, they're not going to be able to pay for solar and wind. They just can't. So you got to come up with low-cost replacement and over time reduce our carbon production. That all makes sense. Let technology help us. And let people be prosperous because that's part of freedom. And
Oregon was the first state in the nation to do this. And you're going, see, here's the problem, Bud, I had, is it's not the will of the people. It's they just crammed it through in a short session. They didn't, the unintended consequences are severe, and Oregonians are going to pay for this. So, you had to have been completely frustrated knowing that what you're going for the governor's, the governorship, and to see that, and then I just classified it as a false narrative. And like you said, bringing trust back to government, it's not that difficult if you do what's right for the people.
Yeah, absolutely right. And again, remember, these are statutes, so they are not constitutional amendments. So when things that are written in statute, if you can come up with alternatives and you can have different people in leadership, they can change. So these are not constitutional. So we can make this work, and we can make changes going forward. But again, we have to be clear on our goals, and our goals are certainly to protect the environment and have a great place and to help the world's environment, really, because we're one world. It's not about Oregon as in isolation. But again, the focus has to be on the big three for the people, and the big three are safety and prosperity, which includes low cost of living and freedom to be who you are, in addition to being safe. I mean, those are the keys of a successful life and what we should do as a government.
You know, we're just about out of time, Bud, but it's interesting. You know, the timber industry got swatted, kicked to the curb, got sent packing. Those were family wage jobs. Now, because of the lack of that, you've got this marijuana industry that's budgeting out, and yet you don't have banking with just a cash crop. Now you've got the whole tax thing going on and trying to create, you've got counties starving. The federal government hasn't done what they're supposed to do in this class action lawsuit. You know, Lynn County started it. These counties are going to jump on board. You know, the governor can do some things with this, can't they?
Yeah, the governor, this is what the governor is the number one thing, the governor is a motivator and a leader in directing the direction of what are the goals of the state. So the motivations of the private sector, the private sector, the government is on your side. We mean it. We are there to allow you to do what you do. And what you do is going to be to create great private sector jobs that are great for your company and great for employees, because great companies that are profitable pay their employees great wages and great benefits. So we're there right there on your side. Second part is with the agencies, the government agencies. There's great workers in them. They're hamstrung daily by their own internal bureaucracy. They have to be freed up. Middle management needs to be able to retire. We just have to modernize that whole operation and simplify it. And finally, dealing with the legislature, we need to, again, focus on bills that will enhance people's safety and their prosperity and their freedom. And that's all we're interested in. And this mind-numbing complexity, so people can't even figure out what to do in their life without hiring a lawyer, because there's so many rules and laws. That needs to go away. That flat has to go away. And that's the direction that a governor can set the tone and really drive the state in an entirely different direction that's hopeful and prosperous. And at the end of the day, people say, I appreciate having the government I have because they have helped make my life better.
Well,
really what you want.
And once again, being a leader, a functional leader, and standing up for Oregonians rather than leading from behind, like, quite frankly, we've been used to for so many years now. And the federal government has just taken the state of Oregon and just swatted them this way and swatted them that way. And it's been too much political agenda. But it's been great to talk to you. Can't wait to spend some more time with you. And you'll be touring Southern Oregon anytime soon?
Well, today's agenda is Salem. I rounded this morning at the hospital. I still work as a doctor. We're here in Portland, and then we're going to be heading back to Salem, and then we're down actually in Eugene, and then we'll be heading to Coos Bay. So we're all over the place. So and there's lots more trips coming forward. So I look forward to meeting you.
Good deal. Bud Pierce, ladies and gentlemen. Get to his website, budpierce.com, and he's competing. He'll election campaign for the governorship for the great state of Oregon on the Republican ticket. There's a total of 9 candidates, both Republican and Democrat side. It'll be great. And Bud, thank you so much for your time this morning. I know you're super busy. I know your hours are early and go late, and oncology and answering the call and helping great Oregonians. So I just appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you very much.
You bet. Take care. All right,
Bye-bye.
We'll get to a break and then come right back. More on the Sunrise Show. You can find us on the web, kcmxam.com. All of our links are there. You can hit me up, Craig@radiomedford.com. If you want to give us a call, 541-772-8255. That's the studio line. And then, well, we're only on for a few more minutes. Have a wonderful day. Going to get to 70 today. Sunset tonight at 7:21. It's day number 235 in the American Voter Countdown. What are we going to do about it? We'll be right back. Okay, a little basketball action maybe. I think that might just help.